respectively. Credit to agriculture has registered the highest growth, though it still remains low at only 12.9% of total credit extended as of December 2018. Public finance. Madam Speaker and colleagues, domestic revenue collection too has increased significantly. It is projected at 16,711.66 billion in the financial year that we are ending, of which 16,101.66 billion is tax, and 530 billion is non-tax revenue. The surplus is 352.66 billion over the target of 16,359 billion. Thanks to Revenue Authority. The ratio of domestic revenue to GDP is estimated at 15.2% this financial year, compared to 14.6% achieved last year. This is an increase of 0.06 of GDP in one financial year. We are moving. NRM never stops. We move. Madam Speaker, and we shall continue to move. Government spending, excluding domestic debt refinancing this financial year, is projected to be 24,297.85 billion, which is equivalent to 22.1% of the GDP. Now let me turn to the economic growth strategy for the financial year that we have budgeted for. Madam Speaker, the economic growth strategy that underpins the financial year 2019-20 budget seeks to consolidate the intervention towards the attainment of a shared prosperity. Ensuring shared prosperity requires that the benefits of economic growth reach all Ugandans. Our people must be provided with opportunities to create wealth and earn higher incomes. This strategy is built on the rapid industrialization of our economy, linked to higher productivity and production in agriculture, while nurturing the potential of the key growth sectors like tourism, minerals, oil and gas. The growth of these sectors is what will provide gainful employment to the majority of our people. Entrepreneurs who have strong links with the productive households are the key to unlocking the potential of these key sectors, leading to prosperity for all of us. The economic growth strategy consists of three interlinked parts. One, expanding the industrial base of the economy. Two, exploiting natural resource endowments with environmental protection in mind. I repeat this. Exploiting natural resource endowment with environmental protection in mind. Three, providing affordable financing for production and business. Expanding the industrial base of our economy. Madam Speaker and colleagues, the NRM government has already successfully laid the foundation for Uganda's industrialization. The key bottlenecks such as inadequate electricity and transportation infrastructure, the lack of basic education and health have to a large extent been addressed. Consequently, the manufacturing sector is now able to meet domestic demand for basic products like cement, tiles, light steel products, and consumables such as sugar and salt. There is a word we call nyoko. The next phase of manufacturing in Uganda will produce goods for exports and also replace many of Uganda's imported products. Nugu,
Order, please.
Uganda's industrialization process in the future has accordingly been designed designated based on two strategic pillars. The first strategic pillar provides developed and service areas where industrial production for several enterprises can take place. The plan involves building planned and fully serviced industrial parks in 22 locations across the country. The second strategic pillar supports the development of product value chains which link nucleus entrepreneurs to growers farmers. These product value chains permit marketing of agricultural products, agro-processing for value addition, as well as the efficient provision of finance and other inputs of production. It will also ensure the vast majority of Ugandans are productively engaged. We have already successfully established a few product value chains in agro-industry in citrus fruits, vegetable oil, and dairy industries. The next move is to expand product value chains to other commodities across the country. Exploiting natural resources endowment with the environmental protection in mind. Madam Speaker and my colleagues, members of Parliament and Your Excellency, sir, exploiting Uganda's natural resources endowment provides opportunity for growth and the provision of incomes and decent livelihood for the majority of our people. The three natural resources endowments Uganda has include vast arable land and freshwater resources, abundant wildlife and diverse environment, and plentiful minerals, oil, and gas deposits. Appropriately exploiting these natural endowments requires being mindful of the adverse impact of extraction, overutilization, and wasteful use of the benefits they provide. Addressing climate change aggressively is therefore key to appropriately exploiting our natural resource endowments. Now let me turn to commercialization of agriculture. Appropriate exploitation of agricultural arable and land and freshwater resources requires climate-smart commercialization of the sector. Because the majority of Ugandans are part of rural households, achieving inclusive growth requires that we use modern farming practices, advanced agricultural inputs and technology, post-harvest storage, and improve product marketing access. These will positively change the livelihoods of over 68% of our Uganda households who are currently engaged in subsistence agriculture. Commercializing agriculture has the greatest potential for increasing household productivity and incomes while addressing unemployment in the rural communities. The use of productive value chains based on national agricultural zoning strategy will also facilitate agricultural commercialization. Successful agricultural processors will be engaged to serve as nucleus linked to farmers who sell their produce to the processor. In addition, product value chains permit inputs such as extension services and finance to be delivered. This approach will lead to an increase in sustainable production at the farm household level while increasing productivity and incomes. In addition, the approach will nurture agro-based industries across the country, employing labor that will have been released from primary agriculture. Now, let's address ourselves to climate change. Madam Speaker, deforestation and the destruction of wetlands adversely impacts the welfare of our people, among many, but in the following ways. 1, water shortage, or no water at all, for domestic use and production. 2, increased temperatures and severe long droughts. 3, overflooding and increasing landslides in highlands. You know what has been happening on Mountain Elgon. 4, destructive winds due to lack of wind breaks. Reforestation and restoration of wetlands must be undertaken as a matter of urgency. And the destruction of wetlands and forest cover will be penalized through the enforcement of environmental laws and regulations. Local governments must enact and enforce ordinances on tree planting, efficient waste management and wasteland conservation. The ban on use on harmful materials such as environmentally destructive polyethylene bags, among others, will also be unequally enforced. I appeal to the private sector to adopt climate-smart technologies in their work. Now let's turn to tourism, Madam Speaker. Uganda's natural and cultural heritage are critical to tourism. Utilizing our natural heritage endowment by realizing its tourism potential will provide Uganda significant benefits. Notwithstanding its current level of development, the tourism sector has made dramatic progress and now ranks as the highest foreign exchange earner sector in the Republic of Uganda. In 2018, foreign receipts from tourism reached $1.02 billion with $1.6 million international tourist arrivals being recorded. Uganda is now a known international touristic destination of choice, which strongly justifies developing its tourism potential to benefits it will provide to Ugandans in particular, but to our economy as well. Sustained growth of Uganda's tourism therefore requires conservation of our natural and cultural heritage. Appropriate legislation will be enacted and vigorously enforced to preserve cultural sites and monuments, and deter illicit tracking of protected wildlife and antiquities. Tourist hubs and circuits will be developed for product development and the marketing of Uganda as touristic destination of choice based on religious, natural, and cultural heritage. Infrastructure including roads and airports, electricity, and hospitality facilities will be developed to enable efficient access to tourism destination and adequate hospitality. World-class skills will be built in hospitality and tourist handling, wildlife conservation, tour and travel management, food and beverages services. Now I turn to minerals, oils, and gas. Madam Speaker and colleagues, extracting minerals, oil, and gas will contribute to building a solid source base for this economy, while providing jobs to many more Ugandans. The priority minerals to be exploited include iron ore, limestone, phosphates, oil and gas, dimension stones, gold, and rare earth metals. The key strategic actions required to commercialize this sector include minimizing speculation and holding of mineral licenses, enforcement of mining regulations, the airborne geophysical mapping of Karamoja, the provision of key roads and energy infrastructure. Madam Speaker, in order to avoid wasting and leakage of the benefits from minerals, oil, and gas resources, the proceeds of extraction will be invested for both the current and the future generations. In this regard, a Petroleum Revenue Investment Authority Committee has been appointed to guide this process in line within the clear and transparent policy. Uganda has also recently joined the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative to publicly account for all proceeds of minerals, oil, and the gas sectors. Now, affordable financing for the private sector. Madam Speaker, access to affordable finance is an important catalyst for the growth of viable private sector enterprises. Affordable long-term finance from development financing, pensions, and capital market sources facilitate private sector investment. Commercial banking rates remain high. This calls for government intervention. In this regard, the Uganda Investment Bank will be further capitalized. I have allocated $303.5 billion in the next financial year for this purpose. Although I wanted more. In addition, to support private companies raise equity capital, the Capital Market Authority will establish a center to facilitate access to long-term domestic...
Order members. Listen to the Minister of Finance, please.
Thank you for protecting me, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Please.
Let's listen to each other. In addition, to support private companies raise equity capital, the Capital Market Authority will establish a center to facilitate access to long-term domestic and foreign capital on the stock exchange. The necessary legal and regulatory framework for the operation of the private equity funds will also be designed to attract more investment into Uganda as a private sector. Madam Speaker and colleagues, financial sector reforms include agency banking, bank assurance, Islamic banking, which has raised a bit of few fireworks, but we shall explain. Bank of Uganda is supposed to explain. And enhanced access to credit reference bureau services to reduce operational costs of commercial banks. The use of movable assets as collateral for loans has also been facilitated with the enactment of the Security Interest in Movable Property Act 2019. Thank you, members of Parliament, for passing that law. In addition, the Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority is now fully operational. This will enhance consumer and investor confidence in the microfinance industry and money lending business. The electronic charters register will also be operationalized to ease access to credit. Furthermore, business clinics will be run by the Uganda Registration Service Bureau to enhance the registration of informal businesses. Madam Speaker and dear colleagues, small and medium enterprises require affordable credit. I have provided an additional 40 billion to the Microfinance Support Center for only lending at affordable interest rates, not exceeding 20% per annum. Not much, but in our language we say katono kazida muliso. Little. Special programs to enhance access to credit for youth and women entrepreneurs will also continue to be implemented. The skills program for youth and the Uganda Women's Entrepreneurship Program have been allocated 130 billion and 32 billion respectively. Maybe let me repeat this. Special programs to enhance access to credit for youth and women entrepreneurs will also continue to be implemented. The skills program for youth and the Uganda Women's Entrepreneurship Program have been allocated 130 billion and 32 billion respectively. And there are more funds that will come soon. I hope Your Excellency, you will be able to tell this August House what we discussed and agreed in the Cabinet the other day on these other special funds. Madam Speaker, to de-risk lending to agriculture, the Uganda Agriculture Insurance Scheme subsidizes agriculture insurance premiums paid by farmers. Agriculture insurance protects farmers against the key agricultural risks such as those resulting from natural disasters like droughts. This ultimately attracts affordable credit to agriculture. By March 2019, 77,000 farmers had accessed agricultural insurance across all regions of our country. Check, please. This is we know, facts. I talk from nothing but from facts. Madam Speaker, in order to develop a sound financial sector that supports sustainable and inclusive economic growth, we recently developed a medium-term financial sector development strategy. The enablers of the growth strategy. Madam Speaker and colleagues, effective implementation of the economic growth strategy I have just talked about requires that certain preconditions are in place. These preconditions include peace and security. I repeat, peace and security. Good governance, and an efficient judicial system together with the macroeconomic stability. Additional enablers required for economic growth to include reliable, efficient, and affordable electricity supply, water, transport, and communications infrastructure, a healthy and well-educated and skilled workforce, an effective government machinery like the one of the NRM. The NRM government has since 1986 striven to provide these preconditions which have to a large extent been met. Now I turn to the financial year 2018-19 sector performance and the financial year 1920 private enterprise interventions. Madam Speaker, I now turn to the specific priority intervention that will be implemented in the forthcoming year in furtherance of economic growth strategy, while reporting respective developments that have been recorded during the financial year now ending. These interventions include: 1, enhancing key primary growth sectors; 2, increasing infrastructure access and reliability; 3, human capital development; and 4, maintaining peace and security and good governance. Enhancing key primary growth sectors. Industrialization. Madam Speaker, government has already commenced the establishment of an industrial base, as I've said before. The iron and steel industry now has 24 steel industries, and its installed capacity has doubled to 1.7 million tons per annum from 866,000 tons 5 years ago. The cement industry has expanded to 5 cement factories, more than doubling annual production to 4.43 million tons from 2 million tons 5 years ago. The price we shall talk about. Agro-processing factories have been commissioned in Teso and Ruero for citrus fruits, dairy in Ankole, vegetable oil in Karangara, and tea in Toro and the Chigezi sub-regions. The Uganda Development Corporation, UDC, has acquired a 32% stake in the Atiaka Sugar Factory, which will serve as the nucleus facility for an outgrower scheme in Atiaka and Lamo districts. UDC has also extended 10-year equipment lease financing arrangement to tea factories in Western Uganda, namely Kigezi Highland Tea Company Limited, Kayonza Grower Tea Factory, Mabale Growers Tea Factory Limited. Madam Speaker, 1 private and 3 public industrial parks are already operational at Kapeka, Namamve, Dusira, and Weyogerere. The Kampala Namamve Industrial Business Park is 40% complete and will fully service in the medium term. The park already boasts of 33 operational factories with an estimated 15,000 jobs created. 87 factories are under construction and 120 are at pre-investment stage. During the year, the following factories were commissioned at Namamve Industrial and Business Park: Orion Transformers and Electric Limited, which manufactures electricity transformers, switch gears, and smart meters; Alphasan Company Limited, which manufactures veterinary and human medicines; and Steel Tube, which produces steel products. At the Zira Industrial and Business Park, 9 industrial plants are operational with 7,000 employees. The Weyogere Industrial Park has 4 operational industrial plants in agro-processing and other manufacturing with 5,000 employees.
At the Soroti Industrial Park, the Soroti Fruit Factory was commissioned during the year, although we still need to get raw materials. So please, people from that area, you the politicians, help us to guide our people what the type of orange, together with technical people from Ministry of Agriculture, what type of orange should be produced. In addition to the above public industrial parks, the Yonshen Industrial Park at Kapeka, where government is providing infrastructure, 5 factories out of a targeted 10 are operational now. These include whole animal food technology, which dries fruits for exports and which dries fruits for export. They are dying for more mangoes. They want more mangoes. Then there is the Goodwill Ceramics Company Limited, which manufactures tiles using more than 90% of the local inputs. And I'm inviting honorable members of parliament, find time to go there and see. Seeing is believing. Those of you who have not been there, please go there and see what is happening. Then we shall talk from a position of knowledge and we can debate. Development of Mbali, Soroti, Iganga, Mbarara, and the Ginger National Parks is ongoing. Other industrial parks will also be developed by providing basic infrastructure, including roads, electricity, water, information technology, and communications infrastructure. 14 free zones to promote exports have also been licensed in Arua, Jinja, Kalungu, Mpigi, Mukono, Wakiso, Tororo, Kampala, and Buikwe. Madam Speaker, we are coming, don't worry. I told you entering will go slowly. No, time is not going. Are you about to die? Sorry, Madam. Madam Speaker, in order to speed up industrial growth, the budget for 2019-20 will undertake the following priority actions. Fast track feasibility studies, including engineering designs for all proposed industrial parks. 2, develop service industrial parks and workplaces. And 3, reform technical and vocational education and training to provide the skills required in the job market. And 4, establish the industrial skills production center at Kampala industrial area to provide skills development. Innovation and knowledge transfer, critical for researchers, industrialists, innovators, and youth in particular. A center will also be, the center will also address technology gaps in Uganda while boosting value addition. 5, promote and expand the Uganda Industrial Research Institute, URI, Industrial and Technology Incubation Center. In addition, URI will establish regional and model value addition centers. 6, provide an additional shillings 10 billion to the Soroti Fruit Factory for working capital requirements to purchase the required raw materials. 7, supports applied research from you people telling our people down there to do the right thing. Support applied research, innovation, industrial development at the Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, PIBID, the Presidential Initiative on Science and Technology, and the Kira Electric Vehicle Project, among others. You saw on the screen. Is it there now? There it is. We shall tell you. You don't say everything at the same time. Everything has time, don't you know that? Madam Speaker, in addition, preparatory work to establish regional science and technology parks, municipal innovation hubs, value addition technology transfer centers, material science program, and petrochemicals will be commenced. 8, reduce the minimum investment threshold that allows developers of free zones and industrial parks to be eligible for tax incentives from $100,000 to $50,000 million. reduce the minimum investment threshold that allows operators within industrial parks to be eligible for tax incentives to US$ 10 million from foreigners and 1 million for local investors. Madam Speaker, I have provided 428.68 billion next to the financial year for 1, electrification of industrial parks, 147 billion. 2, the development of supportive export infrastructure in export processing zones and industrial parks, 103 billion. And 3, science, technology and innovation, 178 billion. Madam Speaker, government's efforts to modernize and commercialize agriculture are bearing positive outcomes, as I've already said. For instance, the volumes and the value of exports of strategic commodities has registered a notable improvement. Listen to this. Coffee export volumes in 2018 increased by 6% to 4.5 million bags, valued at 492 million compared to 4.2 million valued at 490 million exported in 2017. Oil palm production in Kalangala in 2018 increased by 55% to 37,000 tons, valued at 21.4 billion compared to the 2016 production of 24,300 tons, valued at shillings 13.4 billion Ghana shillings. Milk production in 2018 increased by 19% from 2.1 billion liters in 2015 to 2.5 million liters in 2018. The volume of fish exports has also increased by 27%. The support fisheries enforcement intervention by the current UPDF has led the opening of 4 fish factories. Gomba in Jinja, Inftra in Kampala, Marine and Agoro in Jinja and Ngege in Kampala. The established production capacity of all these factories is now 330 tons per day. The action that the government has taken to support the significant outcomes I have illustrated include the following. 1, distribution of key planting and breeding and stocking materials, including the establishment of almost 110,000 acres of citrus orange and about 144 acres of mango. You go to Nyoya and see. Go to Adiru, who is working in Nyoya, you will see. 22,000 acres of tea in Chigezi, Ankole, Rwenzori, Mubende, West Nile, and the Bunyoro sub-regions. And 16,500 acres of cocoa. Breeding and genetic development continued with multiplication of beef and dairy cattle, goats, pigs, and poultry. Construction of 4 medium-sized irrigation schemes have been completed at Agoro, 650 hectares, in Lamo, in Doho 1,000 hectares, in Utareja, Mubuku 516 hectares, in Kasese, and Olwe, 600 hectares in Lida district. Construction of the major irrigation schemes have progressed and are at different stages of completion. Doho 2 in Utareja is at 48.6%. Mubuku 2 in Kasese at 22.5%. Wadelai in Nebi district is at 18.2%, and Tochi in Oyam district at 57%. Ngenge in Kwale district at 54.1%, and Wengaj in Kabarole district at 50%. Complete the construction of 10 small-scale irrigation systems at Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institutes at Parisa, Bukedia, Katakwi, Tororo, Kamuli, Bugiri, Asoroti, Abim, Kabom, and the Mayuga districts. The demonstration will benefit 300 registered farmers groups. Construction of solar powered irrigation systems at 7 more Zone Agricultural Research and Development Institute at Ulindi, Rwebitaba, Abi, Buginyanya, Nabium, Mukono, Ngeta are being finalized. In addition, 15 solar water pump systems for small-scale irrigation were established in 13 districts of Katakwi, Kamuli, Bukedia, Buikwe, Kayunga, Mpigi, Liantonde, Kiruhura, Mbarara, Kamwenge, Rubirizi. Emergency care. Madam Speaker and colleagues, in the next financial year, the following intervention will be prioritized. 1. Improve the functionality of the lower level health facilities by providing additional resources for operationalization and upgrading 124 health center 2s to health center 3s in 99 local governments. This is in line with the NRM manifesto of having health center 3 in all the sub-counties. 2. Streamline the health referral system to reduce pressure on super-specialized Mulago National Referral Hospital. 3. Construct staff houses and maternity wards in 81 health centers supported by the World Bank Reproductive Maternal Child Health Services Improvement Program. 4. Improve supply of medicines and health supplies and strengthen controls for more efficient drug management across the country. 5. Improve human resource for health and by training local health professionals and strengthening village health teams. Madam Speaker, shillings 2.6 trillion have been provided to the health sector for the coming year. Nutrition, shame. I agree with you. Madam Speaker, to address malnutrition and the significant prevalence of stunting in children and anemia among expectant mothers, the education, health, agriculture, gender and social development ministries will be jointly tasked to implement the following measures starting this current year, financial year. 1. Ensure industrial food fortification with vital nutrients for major staples and cooking oils consumed in public institutions such as schools, hospitals, and the country's security forces. 2. Require all schools to establish and maintain vegetable gardens for both educational purposes and as a source of vital nutrients in school diets. 3. And home. Revitalize nutrition education conducted at village health teams. Revitalize nutrition education conducted by village health teams, community development workers, and the public and the private media. And 4. Train and support small-scale millers with appropriate technologies to enable food fortification as well as enforce regulatory food fortification standards. These interventions will require the revision of the Uganda Nutrition Action Plan and prioritize the food and nutrition security in National Development Number 3. Safe water and sanitation. Madam Speaker, the following progress was registered in safe water provision and sanitation during this year that is closing. 1. Rural water coverage is now 71%, while the urban water coverage stands at 80%. 2. 38,200 villages representing 66 of the total villages in the country have been served with clean water. Let me repeat this. 38,200 villages, representing 66% of total villages in the country, have been served with clean water. If I'm lying, please, you know, we don't tell lies in NRM. Go and check who told we tell lies. 3, if we are telling lies, we will not be in power today. Rural sanitation coverage stands at 79%, while sanitation coverage in urban area is 87.4%. Madam Speaker, during the financial year, the next financial, the following intervention will be undertaken in safe water provision and access to sanitation. 1. Extending piped water systems and environmentally friendly waterborne toilet facilities. 3. Construction of sewage treatment plants and eco-friendly toilet facilities in rural growth centers. 3. Undertake countrywide rehabilitation of water facilities including wells, valley tanks and dams, shallow wells and boreholes. 4. Strengthen the operation and maintenance of water facilities in collaboration with the water user committees. Madam Speaker and colleagues, shillings 1.1 trillion has been provided to the water and environment sector in the coming financial year. The allocation will be spent mainly 1. Provision of water for production, shillings 218.5 billion. 2. Access to safe water in rural communities, 100.9 billion. And 3. Access to safe water in urban areas, 463.1 billion. Now I turn to peace and security and governance. Madam Speaker, the maintenance of peace, security, law and order has laid a strong foundation for economic growth and development in Uganda over several decades. If you dispute this, then you are telling yourself a lie. Improving governance and the public administration management has been registered. Notwithstanding challenges such as regional global threats, including terrorism, money laundering, corruption, particularly in public service, and constrained effectiveness of our judicial system that faces case backlogs. In order to maintain peace and security and good governance, the following intervention will be implemented by government over the next financial year and the medium term. 1. Continue to professionalize the UPDF through equipment and training. To this effect, security has been allocated an addition of 1,500 billion to enhance its capacity. 2. Commence the implementation of the electoral roadmap for the 2021 general elections in pursuit of democracy and good governance, for which 223 billion has been allocated through the responsible institutions. 3. Continue to strengthen anti-corruption institutions, policies and systems in order to crack down on corruption in public service, minimize fraud and money laundering, and financing of terrorism in our country. 4. When I talk about corruption, people keep quiet. Enhance efficiency in justice systems by addressing case backlog, by among others, through automation of, let me repeat this, enhance efficiency in justice system by addressing case backlog, by among others, through automation of case management, roll out plea bargaining, mediation, and small claim procedures. I have provided the judiciary with an additional, besides what they have already, additional 53 billion. 5. Commencing the construction of the Supreme Court, for which I have provided 20 billion as a start. Enhance pay for judicial officers, state attorneys, and prosecutors, for which I have provided 22 billion. Fast-track implementation of safe city infrastructure by rolling out installation of CCTVs to municipalities and urban centers. 8. Reduce prison congestion by operationalizing Kitalia Mini-Max Prison and 5 other reception centers. The National Community Service Program will also serve as an alternative to incarceration. 9. Install electronic gates and kiosks at major border points, including Maraba, Busia, Katuna, Mutukula, Atiak, and Mirama Hills. Improving public investment management and public sector effectiveness. Madam Speaker and colleagues, in order to strengthen the public investment management system in the country, government has adopted the following measures. 1. Require all projects under preparation to adhere to the public investment management system framework to ensure alignment with the National Development Plan and are socially and economically viable. 2. Fully roll out implementation of the online integrated bank of projects system. And 3. Prioritize allocation of ongoing projects to ensure their completion on time and within budget and scope. Madam Speaker, we will continue to undertake joint portfolio reviews on all ongoing projects with development partners and civil society to assess project implementation. These reviews enable identification of reasons for slow implementation and development of remedial action. Madam Speaker, the following measures to enhance the effectiveness of public sector will be implemented in the coming financial year. 1. Introduce the electronic government procurement (EGP) system to improve efficiency, transparency, and accountability in public procurement. 2. Launch the Resource Enhancement and Accountability Program, which requires strengthening transparency and accountability in public finance, among others. 3. Complete the rollout of the integrated financial management system, treasury single account framework, and the e-cash solution to all government departments at local government level, and enhance efficiency, transparency, and accountability. And 4. Enhance asset management in government for greater economy and efficiency. Now, I turn to how we are going to finance the budget. Madam Speaker, the financing strategy for the next financial year and the medium term is underpinned by the recently developed domestic revenue mobilization strategy that seeks to enhance Uganda's revenue. The financing strategy is also anchored on a prudent debt financing strategy consistent with a sound fiscal and monetary policy framework. Domestic revenue mobilization strategy. Madam Speaker, the domestic revenue mobilization strategy will strengthen the tax administration and restore public confidence in the tax system. The strategy aims to raise the ratio of revenue to GDP ratio to 18 over a 5-year period. Therefore, the following intervention will be implemented over the next 5 fiscal years. 1. Review tax policies for greater simplicity, efficiency, and sustainable revenues, taking into account citizens' welfare and regional integration, bilateral and multilateral commitments. 2. Involve taxpayers more fully into the exact policy formulation process and restore public confidence in the taxpayer system. 3, promote an attractive business environment to potential investors, including the provision of business-friendly tax environment and eliminating distortions to private sector investment decisions. 4, support investment in human capital by granting incentives to businesses which provide apprenticeship in private sectors, accredited training and education based at the workplace. 5, eliminate revenue leakages and enforce tax obligations by re-examining rules and restricting tax exemptions to those that have significant public good. 6, enhance Uganda Revenue Authority's administrative efficiency through additional staff recruitment, better training, modernization and expansion of the ICT capacity. 7, enhance compliance through registration, improved taxpayer services and education. 8, develop a simplified tax regime for small and medium enterprises, including informal sector businesses, to encourage tax compliance while preserving Uganda's entrepreneurial spirit. 9, strengthen the revenue-raising capacity of local governments by broadening the range of revenue instruments available to them and make them less dependent on the central government transfers. Revenue projections. Madam Speaker, domestic revenue projections for next financial year amount 20,449 billion. Of this, tax revenue amount to 18,877 billion, while non-tax revenue is shillings 1,571 billion. Madam Speaker, next financial year, URA will collect all government revenues, including appropriation aid. For government departments that have been collecting appropriation aid, appropriate budget should be undertaken and resources shall be duly allocated. The revenue target for next financial year, including for appropriation aid, therefore, translates into a revenue effort of 16.8% of GDP in the NDP 2 target of 16 for financial year 2019-20. Madam Speaker, and the colleagues, the Parliament approved tax measures for financial year 2019-20, which will come into effect from 1st July 2019. Modest adjustments to tax registration have been made to streamline incentives and protect viable and competitive sectors. Tax laws have also been amended to support compliance, enhance competitiveness in the region, while closing loopholes that may lead to revenue leakage. The details of these measures are contained in the respective tax amendment acts. Madam Speaker and colleagues, the following are some of the highlights of the tax measures. 1, the Excise Duty Act was amended to provide for registration of manufacturers, importers, and providers of excisable goods and services. This will also reinforce other tax reforms like digital tax stamps. 2, income derived from leasing or letting facilities in industrial parks has been exempted from income tax for 10 years from the date of commencement of construction. 3, withholding tax on long-term bonds has been reduced from 20 to 10% to encourage investment in long-term government securities, but at the same time, reduce financing costs to government. 4, Stamp Duty Act was amended to provide for a uniform stamp duty payable on bank guarantees, insurance performance bonds, indemnity bonds, and similar debt instruments in order to reduce the cost of debt financing and ease tax compliance and administration. In addition to VAT exemption on agro-processing, rice mills, and agricultural prosperers have also been exempted from VAT. Introduction of a 6% withholding rate for VAT. 7, to promote, let me repeat. 5, in addition to VAT exemption on agro-processing, rice mills, and agricultural sprayers has also been exempted from VAT. The introduction of a 6% withholding rate for VAT will now be applicable. 7, to promote investment in industrialization, import tariffs on products which are locally manufactured have been increased. Let me repeat. To promote investment and industrialization, import tariffs on products which are not locally manufactured have been increased. If you're a businessman, you know what that means. Tax administration reforms, Madam Speaker, effective tax administration is necessary for sustainable revenue collection. The Uganda Revenue Authority will therefore strengthen its capacity to effectively collect taxes. This will involve recruitment of additional staff, skills development in specialized areas such as audit, investigations, and risk analysis, and the modernization and expansion of the ICT capacity. Madam Speaker, the following interventions in tax administration will be implemented in the next financial year. 1, use of electronic fiscal devices to improve compliance in VAT. 2, use of a digital tax stamp solution to avert and declaration of excise and custom duties. 3, enhance rental income tax collection. 4, purchase and deploy scanners at major ports of entry into Uganda to facilitate fast clearance of goods and curb misdeclaration. And 5, expand deployment of electronic cargo tracking system to eliminate dumping of imports in the Ugandan market. Now the resource envelope. I'm about to finish. Madam Speaker and friends and colleagues, the resource envelope for financial year 2019-20 totals to 40,487.9 billion, of which tax and non-tax revenue is 20,895.6 billion. Domestic financing amounts to 2,829.8 billion. While external financing consists of project support, shillings 9,433.6 billion, and the general budget support at 675.2 billion. Domestic refinancing amount to shillings 6,452.6 billion, and appropriation aid is shillings 201.1 billion. Budget deficit and its financing. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the next financial year, the budget deficit as a ratio of GDP is projected to be at 8.7% compared to 5.8% this year. This is as a result of increase in spending on infrastructure projects such as oil tourism roads, such as oil and tourism roads, the national airline and the power transmission lines. These deficits, as usual, will be financed largely through external borrowing and to a lesser extent through domestic borrowing. Public debt, which is worrying many people. Madam Speaker, the stock of government debt rose to shillings 42,760 billion, equivalent to US dollars 11.5 billion as at the end of 2018. At the end of December 2017, it was 37,208 billion, equivalent to 110.2 billion. External debt constitutes 66.5% of the total debt and this amounts to 28,427 billion, equivalent to US dollars to 7.7 billion. Domestic debt constitutes the balance. Debt sustainability. Madam Speaker, I would like to assure the country that our debts remain sustainable in the medium to long term. As of December 2018, debt was at 41.1% of GDP in nominal terms and at 31.7% of GDP in present value terms, well below the threshold of 50% debt to GDP ratio contained in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility and the East African Community Monetary Union Protocol. Uganda compares very favorably with its peers because most of our debt has been contracted on concessional terms. Our debt has financed priority and productive sectors which will generate positive economic returns, and the ability to pay back is enhanced. Government will continue to exercise caution while taking new debts. The rate of debt accumulation is expected to reduce in the medium term as flagship infrastructure projects are completed. To ensure debt sustainability in the short, medium, and long term, government will, 1, continue to prioritize borrowing for mainly infrastructure development projects to address the existing infrastructure gaps for industrial enhancement, power transmission, distribution, transport, water, and water for production. Improve loan absorption as well as effective utilization of the borrowed resources, including investing in export-oriented areas to boost exports, which also increase our capacity to service external loans. 3, apply more stringent vetting of projects to be financed by loans.
Honorable the Minister of Finance, for your elaborate presentation. Now, Your Excellency the President, honorable members, and our guests, as I stated earlier, Article 155(1) of the Constitution confers obligations of presenting the national budget to Parliament on the President. The Minister of Finance is a delegate who is performing that on his behalf. Now that we've heard from the Minister, it is essential that we hear from the President who assigned him that responsibility, but who remains ultimately responsible for the budget and its impact. I know that the President will want to make some remarks thereon, but as I did point out to the House on the 31st May 2019, and also on Saturday 16 2019, I reiterate the provisions of Article 98(1) of the Constitution, which provide that the President shall be the head of state, head of government, commander-in-chief, and the fountain of honor. I wish to draw further your attention to Rule 10, Sub-Rule 4 of the Rules of Procedure. It provides that while the President occupies the chair of state in the House, he may make a presidential statement which shall be heard in silence and not followed by any comments or questions. Let me now invite the President to make his remarks.
Thank you so much. His Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, His Lordship the Deputy Chief Justice, the Deputy Speaker. Oh, he's there. The Right Honorable the Deputy Prime Ministers, Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament, Their Excellencies, the Ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honorable Leader of the Opposition, now then, you have heard that Ebola, which has been maintained in Congo by the people who are in charge of that area, has crossed into Uganda, but our people are there. And I would want to avoid shaking hands for now, just to wave. There is no harm. People will not die if you don't greet. You just. Now, on the issue of vandalizing public assets, I am not a preacher like the minister to just call upon the people to change their ways if the kingdom of heaven is about to come. Now that we have got the cameras, anybody seen vandalizing the assets will be arrested and he will pay for whatever damage he has done. Also, any vehicle which knocks the road fences, they will pay. Because in the school, at Mbara High School, we had caution money. You would pay some money, keep it with the headmaster. In case you damage something, then they deduct. So anybody who damages they call it road furniture. I don't know why they call it that, but public assets, if he's identified, he will pay. There's no problem. We don't have to go on preaching and no. They will pay. Well, that's good for you. Since I addressed the nation on the 6th of June, 2019, a number of other Ugandans have died, including my clan sister, Nyinomkama Christine Bira Michereine of the Rosuru Kingdom. Let us stand up for a minute of silence to remember them. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Sit down, please. The Wanyankore had an elaborate judicial system that encouraged harmony and conflict avoidance. Unlike the present system that we inherited from the West, that tends to increase conflict and is adversarial. Consequently, the Banyankole systems had a long list of offenses that one had to avoid. When I addressed you last week, State of the Nation, I deliberately committed 2 of those offenses against the Banyankole jurisprudence. And the offenses I committed, one was Oxtiora. Oxtiora, the members of the opposition, and Okurengeza, the others. So these are 2 offenses, Oxtiora and Okurengeza, and I will explain to you what they are. Oxtiora is like if one's wife's mother had been a prostitute, but that person had not good qualities in his future wife, and they got married, her family background notwithstanding, according to Banyankole jurisprudence, it is totally forbidden for one, when angry, to one day say, after all, your mother was a prostitute. If you do that, that is an offense of octiora. Yes, it is true that her mother was a prostitute. The Banyankole question then was, in quotes, what use would be served by taunting her with that history? Why don't you give her a chance to live her own life? It was therefore an offense, and an interclan tribunal, one had to kuhonga, pay a fine of a cow or cows because of doing that. That one we shall see. Because the case is still being heard. In the Western system, they call this fair comment. If you got the Western courts, say, this man, this person extorted me. What did you say? He said my mother was this and that. Is it true that it was? Then if it was, then it's fair comment. It's no problem. But with the Banyankole system, even if it is true, you have no right to bring it up because it has no useful purpose. The court would only concern itself in what they call establishing the facts in the court. However, some of the facts are not helpful to society. Similarly, last week, I admit that I committed the offense of octiora the opposition when I said that they were neither government nor opposition, but they were doing I used some strong words there, which I don't want to repeat here. I will do it. Oh, very good. And I quoted some facts. Like the modern quotes to prove my point. The points I put before the public court were that for 24 years of Uganda's independence, I was in the opposition. I was in DP from 1960 to 70, briefly in UPC, September 1970 to January 1971, only 5 months. From NASA, 1971 to 1980, UNLF, 1971 to 80, PRA, NRA, NRM, 1981 to 1986. So for 24 years of Uganda's independence, I was actually in the opposition. Therefore, I am an expert on opposition issues. However, it was during those years that I helped most, first the citizens of North Ankole, and later the wider Uganda, and even Africa in some modest ways. With the local community, the Banyankole, the main challenge was to wake them up from tradition and help them to see the importance of modernization as we keep the positive elements of tradition. That's what the big problem. And you, honorable members, you better pay attention to this issue. This is a modern world. People need money, but you find people, they are just seated in tradition without looking for money. One day I was going to Chusozi, very early in the morning, at Glover is only 12 miles from Kampala. I saw a big group of more than 40 people with nets and dogs and bears. Dogs had bears that they were going to hunt. What were they going to hunt? They were going to hunt something called omusu. And I said, how much does omusu weigh? They told me it weighs like 5 kilos or what? And they would spend the whole day. Now, once they kill the musu, how will they share it? 30 people. So, it's really not correct to not help our people to know that they are living in the modern world and that they need to know how to live in that modern world. So the challenge which I confronted in Ankole was to wake up those Banyankole from their traditions and tell them how to try and survive in the modern world. Our community's tradition of exogamous marriages as opposed to endogenous marriages must be maintained because it avoids inbreeding called Obtembani Nyankole, etc. However, the Banyankole custom of drinking milk without boiling it are to face my wrath when I came to know that a Frenchman, Louis Pasteur, in the year 1862, had discovered organisms that cannot be seen by our naked eyes, known as bacteria, that do both evil and good, depending on their types, that are found in foods, water, etc. Some of the bacteria cause diseases like streptococcus, that causes cellulitis, that our Baganda people wrongly call edogo, witchcraft, caused by an ill wisher laying a tallow for one, that if you put a witchcraft something somewhere, you jump over it, then your feet will swell. They think that is witchcraft, when in fact it's a medical problem known as cellulitis. I told you about that last week. How one of my chairmen, one of my big supporters, in one of the areas, I found his leg up. What's wrong with it? But a tongue. So then I said, I checked with my medical people, what's this? They said, this is cellulitis. It is just a bacteria. And you just need antibiotic, and the fellow was cured. But this is just near Kampala. People are still believing that cellulitis is a dogo, is witchcraft. However, some of the bacteria, such as lactococcus, cause milk to ferment from fresh milk to amakamo, which the English call sour milk, because they do not have enough words. At the age of 14, in the year 1959, I left my local area of Ntungamo, Kafunjo, where a man by the name of Tashovia has mysteriously taken possession of my land and built a very good school there. And I went abroad to Mbarara. For the first time, stay away for some months from home. The Ntungamists regarded Mbarara, only 40 miles away, as so far away that they would say, it will take you a long time, like somebody going to Mbarara. It was just 40 miles away. In Mbarara High School, Sunday was a visiting day. You could go out of school to visit relatives, etc. My first Sunday, I visited a family that was known to my parents. The second Sunday, I visited Mbarara Government Stock Farm, which the Banyankore were calling Farm Yongzhung, the white man's farm. There I saw for the first time modern farming practices, dipping cattle to kill ticks, rotational grazing, etc. The cattle, both indigenous and exotic, looked very fat and growing fast. When I went home for the April holidays, the first thing I told my father was the better farming practices I had seen in Mbarara. My journey of transforming my family, you must transform your family. You cannot say that you are a leader, you are this, whatever you are, and you have got pre-capitalist people living with you. So I had started with my family by sensitizing, not money, just words, because I didn't have money to give them. You are talking about money. This one I don't buy, because I am telling you what I did. I'm not telling you what I had, I'm not telling you what I read, I'm telling you what I did. Don't say it was then, even now. My journey of transforming my family, my relatives, some of my relatives were in Tanzania. There is a big man that is a member of parliament now for Bukanga. I don't know whether he's here. A man called Kangwa, he's the honorable Kangwaji. That one is that boy is my nephew, but their family had gone to Tanzania in 1959. I tried to get them back in the 60s. They couldn't come back because they were in the game parks. You know, Tanzania has got a lot of game parks. They go there and graze there. And but eventually, in 1988, they came back. They went to school. Now he's a big man. He's a member of parliament. So I had to struggle with those people. He may be back in Tanzania, that's another. My journey of transforming my family, my relatives, my community, Uganda, and even contributing to Africa's transformation had begun. Starting with 1959 to 1986, a period of 27 years, I was not in any government position, except for the 2 years of the short-lived UNLF. But I was actually in opposition most of the time. Nevertheless, it was during that time that I started, there was death. Yet, it is true there was no tear gas, there was actually death. Because tear gas is a non-lethal way of controlling troublemakers. But for the UPC, indeed there was no tear gas. Things were definite and final. Nevertheless, during that time, it was during that time that I started working on changing the people around me, change Uganda through the student movement, contributing to Africa by visiting the liberated areas of Mozambique in 1968, while still a university student. With the socio-economic transformation of North Ankole, although I belonged to the opposition, DP, I worked under and with some positive elements of UPC, which was controlling the government. Why? I did not want UPC to interfere with my mission of transforming my people from nomadism, subsistence farming, etc., to quasi-modern farming, to education for their children, better health, better houses, etc. As the DP supporters, we had tried to win in 1962, but the UPC and Kabaka Yeka, using hooliganism, attacking people, cutting people's coffee, gerrymandering constituencies, etc., had been declared winners by Mr. Piguram, the departing British Director of Elections. As a pro-people activist, I could not stop working on the modernization of my people because UPC and Kabaka Yeka had undemocratically grabbed power, assisted by the incompetent election machinery of the British. As long as the new rulers did not stop people going from attending classes in the school system and did not stop us from sensitizing our people about modernization, we continued. Our method of work was to use small meetings to pass on the non-political, purely developmental message of the 4 steps. Stop nomadism, go from subsistence farming to commercial farming, do so with the Echibaro. Echibaro is Chura, Otita, Aymar. Chura is Luo. And later on, started talking about stopping land fragmentation on inheritance. No message about politics that would invite the clampdown from UPC after they had destroyed their opportunistic allies, the Kabaka Yeka. In fact, after our studies in the universities, many of us joined government departments, and I even joined UPC in September 1970, and even encouraged the Yabusho's area people to join UPC. Political parties are a means to an end. They cannot be an end in themselves. The end is to transform the people, the family, the area, the country, and Africa. Transform them how? By making everybody join the modernity of the four sectors: commercial agriculture with Chura, industries, like the minister was showing you here, services, and ICT. To have subsistence farmers in your area continuously, and you call yourself a leader, you are a mockery of leadership. That's not Oktiora, that's now advice, Okhabra. That is Okhabra now. This is Okhabra, it's not Oktiora. We actually wanted to help UPC deliver, but their internal weaknesses could not allow them. When UPC, which had some ideas about politics, collapsed in 1971 and was replaced by the more incapable and dangerous Idi Amin, never mind, I will sort out the issues with him. The grandson, I will sort out issues with him. We had to now go to another level, the armed resistance. You see, for us, we are very dangerous people, because whatever we do, we mean it. And those who miscalculate never listen to what we say. They don't know that what we say is what we mean, and what we mean is what we say. We never have two languages. If UPC had wanted, we would have helped them, for sure, and they would have succeeded. But they didn't. They chose the other way. So when Idi Amin came in, we assessed, because we met, we said, what do we do now? We said, now there's no alternative but to sort out this issue once and for all. So we went to the armed resistance level. Even here, our methods were principled and carefully thought out. We were fighting using guns, but we never used terrorism, attacking soft targets, attacking non-combatants. You go and you attack people in a bar and you think you are a fighter. We never used assassination. Here, in the Nairo mansions, I vetoed a plan to assassinate Oito Jok by our fighters. During all the time of fighting, I rejected the plans to assassinate Idi Amin, Obote, etc. These methods of using violence carefully, even when you have to use violence, are not only principled, but also strategic. I am now able to work with the children and grandchildren of Idi Amin, Milton Obote, Okelo Rutwa, Oito Jog, even Kaira, if the children were here. Certainly I was in touch with his wife. The Ben Chwanuka, because of Ben Chwanuka was on my side. The other ones were on the other side. Because there is no personal enmity between me and those families. Would that be the case with these younger generations had I assassinated their parents beyond the usual losses of war? Would they be able to work with me? If apart from, because we were fighting. But I never went to hunt any one of them to kill him as an individual. Before the war, we were very careful not to arouse the suspicion of UPC, which would cause them to interfere with our socio-economic transformation efforts. I remember, for instance, the incident in the Kazo Primary School, where all the elders of what is now Chirhura district were gathered to discuss the plans of building Karo Secondary School as a parents' school. The issue of fundraising came up. This was in 1967, when I was aged 22 years of age. I warned them not to collect funds without the knowledge of the UPC government. Otherwise, they may think that we are raising money to fight them. When I checked, I found that there was even a law known as the Public Collections Act of 1966. I had to come with two elders to the police headquarters in the Parliament building here, and we got the permission of the police. So we had to act legally and transparently, so that the UPC don't suspect us. Because when they suspect us, of course, for them they were even more dangerous. They could act irrationally and kill us. No, tear gas is a milder, non-lethal, disciplining means. Besides, the UPC government had negative elements, but it also had positive elements. One example were the programs of His Excellency John Babiha of modernizing the livestock industry by introducing tick control measures, water harvesting by way of dams, creating beef ranches such as the Ankara Massacre Ranching Scheme, state eradication programs, etc. The main weakness of these programs was that they were only for the elite, and the traditional farmers were left out completely. This aspect we criticized. However, it was better that at least the elite were doing modern farming even when the traditional farmers were still forgotten. Previously, both the elite, Abasoma, what we call Jokwano in Acholi, and the traditional farmers, Abatasoma, were out of the modern farming, all of them together. A half-full glass was now better than an empty one. My engagement with Mzee Babiha was to convince the Jokwano, Abasoma,
advantage has been made. Why do we grow?